number one, we all know Spark has operational challenges that are really hard to overcome, right? As did Hadoop in the beginning, so we will get there, not a problem, it's just a question of time. But it's fundamentally made for something different, right? It's fundamentally made to have huge amount of data and a lot of really cheap machines. Guess what? Spark isn't made for that. Spark is made really with the focus on not cheap machines, but memory-intense machines. Those got a little cheaper, but they aren't as cheap as the Hadoop machines, right? And it's not made, Spark isn't made for a huge amount of data. It's made for data that can fit into memory, and then you do really fast processing on it, right? And then again, you have the streaming things, that's a whole nother dimension. Again, interestingly enough, this bucket of the Hadoop ecosystem, within the ecosystem, you're getting even more specialized, right? You have the streaming engines, you have the MapReduce for large data, you have the in-memory Spark stuff that can do iterative stuff. So it's interesting to see things breaking off. I think eventually it will all fall back together. And what Hadoop will become is just a virtualization environment for storage and compute. We have a virtualized storage and you have a virtualized compute engine. And a compute engine can be in memory or it can be on disk, or it doesn't really matter, right? So, and I think what will be important is that it's a scale-out architecture, that you can just add more hardware as you want, because that's the future, right? Amazon in 5 years will have a plug in the wall that says storage and compute, right? So, and I think that's, again, there's a lot of hype and everything. It's like a fractal diagram that goes in all directions. But I think in the big picture, you will zoom out, and in 5 years, we will say, oh yeah, this is a Hadoop ecosystem, or whatever ecosystem, big data ecosystem, and it's virtualized storage and compute, and you have different engines for different purposes. So the interesting thing is this should be all quote-unquote Hadoop. Spark should be Hadoop, right? There should be a Hadoop.Spark, a Hadoop.HDFS, a Hadoop.MapReduce. It should be all within one thing. And that's a little bit the problem right now, and the classical open source problem is that it's open source is developed by egomaniacs, right? That know it better, that know it all, and then they bust their ass and actually do amazing software. But if you look, for example, into the RDBMS world, if you look at Teradata, Teradata is all sorts of things as well in our one product that you right now see in the Hadoop ecosystem. They're just not willing to put it all under the same brand and make it easily interact with each other. If you look at the Teradata, they have highly optimized table scans. It's kind of MapReduce, right? They have highly optimized indices. That's maybe like Lucene in the open source world. They have highly optimized hot and cold data storage. It's maybe like Spark versus HDFS, right? Where you have SSD layers and in-memory caching and blah. They have all this and they call it just, oh, this is Teradata or Oracle, right? Where right now here in the open source world, I think they are right now doing innovative stuff and running in other directions, because it's driven by individual, very ego-driven people that think they know it better, and they do, and they build great software. But that's the risk for an overall market, right? The open source community doesn't have the realization of like, well, we can't do it without each other, right? And they don't have the realization, okay, we really need to be tightly integrated with each other. Well, it doesn't need to be one code base, it needs to be tightly integrated with each other. So, and I think that will be the next thing. Yarn is making a good step forward there, right? So now you have Spark running on Yarn, now you have tests running on Yarn, now you have Hive running on blah, 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 right? So I think the lowest common denominator, or the smallest common denominator, whatever the word is, will be kind of Yarn. So I definitely would like to see more innovation and cool stuff going in there and make this even more open, because then we can build things on top, and then you can have something like smart execution run it against each other, right? But right now it's like a religious, wow, Hadoop sucks, we need to go for Spark. Well, guess what? You can't do all the stuff Hadoop can do, and vice versa, right? It's just, as Cutting said, this is made for this is made for that.